morning. It's Weezy FS1. Skip the BS and put everybody after BS. PS, all I spit is FACTS. The best, Skip Bayless, yes, say less. Top for the top, apex, everyday flex. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't poppin', I ain't trying to hate. Let's have a Jordan and LeBron debate. I got time today, dripping on the chain. My diamonds say what they gotta say. If you think it's a game, I commentate, I ain't gotta play. On in the morning, I own my opponent. My competition is not an issue, it's cotton tissue. Unconventional, controversial, convoluted, unconditional, undeterred and undisputed. Good morning.
Good morning. It is time to skip the BS. You will get none of that on this show. Time for Undisputed. We will get into Cowboys, Lions, and Micah versus the referees and Aaron Rodgers versus the world in just a few minutes. But first up, we revisit Lamar versus the Ravens. If you will remember, Lamar Jackson's contract negotiation with the Ravens got really ugly last season, got down and dirty. Ravens dared to allow Lamar to become a restricted free agent, only giving them the right, of course, to match another team's offer, but nobody offered Lamar a deal, which raised questions about league-wide collusion in hopes of keeping star quarterback salaries down. I mean, Lamar Jackson was a former NFL MVP in 2019. No offers? And all season, the Ravens treated him like he had proven next to nothing. There were questions about his durability, questions about his still 1-3 playoff record, questions about his maturity. You think the Ravens have been disrespected this season? Ravens management disrespected Lamar all of last season so badly that I reported he began refusing to participate in meetings, team meetings, and he finally shut it down for good for the season with some kind of knee issue with 6 games remaining. The Ravens eventually gave him great money, but that took 4 months after the season ended for that to happen. It sure seemed like the deal could have been done so much sooner and smoother. Lamar sure is earning his money now, isn't he? Now he's favored to win his second MVP. Before the season started, I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl because, as I said then, Lamar was about to have an I'll show you season. Keyshawn, good morning to you. Good morning to Richard. But Keyshawn, please, you first. What do you make of what Lamar went through last season as it applies and impacts this season?
Well, I mean, in terms of the negotiation, it's a negotiation. That's what it is. We, as outsiders, really don't know what's going on internally with Lamar's camp, okay? There's so many different reports and so many different things that was being floated out there because, quite frankly, we didn't have information. We were guessing. And what I mean by we, I mean us talking heads on these shows was guessing about what's going on with Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens in terms of the future. Now, look, there was speculation, there was collusion. There was all this, oh, well, you know, because of Deshaun Watson's deal, they got together at the owners' meeting, one of those places in West Palm Beach or wherever they meet, Arizona, at the Biltmore Hotel, and they all said, no, we're not going to do this anymore, Skip. We're not doing this. I didn't see it that way. The way that I saw it is it's the middle of a negotiation. He has a certain number that he's comfortable with on the guaranteed money side plus the years. Then when you look at the teams, because everybody's saying, well, there's so many quarterback-needy teams in the marketplace for quarterbacks, and here's one that's sitting there. What I continue to say, and I'll continue to say it until I die, they were never going to put an offer sheet together for Lamar, meaning other teams. Why would I negotiate, and follow me here, why would I negotiate, Skip and Richard, for the Baltimore Ravens if I'm another team? And I already know, you ain't letting Lamar Jackson leave the building. So if I decide that I'm going to give him $400 million in guaranteed money and you're going to match it, why would I do that? Just to...
Well, if you're a rival of theirs, maybe you want to just jack up their salary cap where it's almost untenable.
That is what people thought. Mm-hmm. That's what they think. They would jack it up. But guess what that now does? it now screws up the rest of the league because the fact that you offered that, even though Baltimore didn't want the 2 first-rounders because you don't know where those ones would be. Those ones could be low. You're never getting another Lamar.
Yep.
So why would you let him out the building?
Yep.
Why would you let him out the building? So when you look at teams, one of the glaring needs at quarterback in all the teams in the National Football League with the New York Jets, they went hell-bent over to go get Aaron Rodgers.
They did.
But Lamar was there.
He was.
Would you rather have a young Lamar, Richard, or an older Aaron Rodgers? Me personally, I would like to have a young Lamar versus an older Aaron Rodgers. We just saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers. But what I would say to this in closing is Joe Douglas spent 15 years in Baltimore.
He did.
Friends with the general manager and Ozzie Newsome and the owner and beside. So he's not going to ruffle their feathers and play that game. They still eat lunch and hang out and play golf together and all those things. So when you look at that, you say, well, why wouldn't they make a run at Lamar? Perfect situation. Young team. Lights out defense at the time. Why would they do that? I didn't see it as collusion. I just see it as nobody's going to negotiate for the Baltimore Ravens. And in the end, Lamar got the money that he was satisfied with, not us saying he should get this. He took what he is happy with.
Okay.
Yeah, my thing is some owners in this league, and it was apparent, colluded on that deal, and they just do not care about winning necessarily. Some owners in this league are not concerned with winning. They're concerned with the bottom line, making as much money as they can. That's why they skimp on certain things when it comes to players and salaries and things in the building. They're not trying to win football games. The Washington Commanders at the time were one of those teams. And there's no evidence, there's nothing you can tell me to say for them not to be able to say, hey, let's take a shot in the dark. Like it doesn't take a ton to put together an offer sheet. You got nothing to lose. And so it's not like you're sitting there saying, man, we got to jump through all these hoops to put in an offer sheet. It's not that complicated at all. So it literally was a no-lose situation for a team like the Commanders to put an offer sheet in, take a shot in the dark. Hey, if they don't match it, cool. Take the first rounders. We got a quarterback of the future. We can build on. We got a new ownership group. We're going on, and we're going to do good things. The fan base is excited. Literally, it would have been up the street from Baltimore. You move up to D.C. So a lot of his fans, I'm sure, would have moved right up on to D.C. To follow his career. And so you could have put butts in the stadiums. You could have made your franchise better. But instead, you said, a lot of these bad teams were the first ones to say we're not in on them. A lot of the bad teams, Keyshawn, the worst teams in the league with no quarterbacks, no franchise quarterbacks, were the first to say, nope, not us. We're not going to give them all for sheet. We're not doing anything. And that's where it started to seem kind of collusion-ish to me and to the NFLPA. I
agree.
And to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because there was no reason.
It is true about the collusion factor because look, the owners in the NFL, as we know, it's always been some little muddy waters with them. They always doing something behind closed doors. There's no question about it. You say the Commanders. The Commanders wasn't in a position. They had a whole lot going on with the owner in the ownership. Then they sell the team. That's still in the process. All that was over with by the time the new owner stepped in. And I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm just of the belief that the Ravens were never going to let him out the building. Like, who you going to get?
Yep.
You're never going to get anybody else.
But that's my point. Like, it's not like you got to do a ton to put up together an offer sheet. And that's why people are like, well, they wouldn't have negotiated for the Baltimore Ravens. It's not that hard. Hey, you look at the baselines, you look at the comparables, you put together an offer and you throw it out there and you say, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not like you have a franchise quarterback and you're like, hey, man, we don't want to upset our franchise quarterback to make it seem like we're going after other guys. You literally got nothing to lose in a situation. If the Baltimore Ravens match it, then you're like, well, they matched it. Cool. But everybody just assumed that. Now, if you said Joe Burrow was on the market, if you said Patrick Mahomes was on the market, I guarantee you every team is putting together an offer sheet and throwing it out there and just going to say, hey, well, y'all going to have to show us that you're going to match this. They're not going to just say, well, the Chiefs aren't going to let him walk out of the building, so we're not even going to try for it. They're going to say, bro, if we got any chance at Patrick Mahomes, we're taking it. And that was the weird thing about this with Lamar. They didn't take the chance. So it's odd. Now, again, They did that in the draft. That's why Baltimore got him at the end of the draft. And then you thought this other time around that you're like, oh, teams aren't going to miss on him again. They've seen he's been an MVP in this league. There's no way they miss on him again, and they did.
No, they didn't miss on him. He just should have played receiver.
I heard that.
Right.
Okay, so let's do skip the BS here, and let's get to the truth of this. There's still a lot of people in charge, in power in this league who don't care for Lamar Jackson, who don't believe in him, don't buy him, didn't want to buy him a year ago, didn't want to risk plunging for him a year ago, even though he had in 2019 won the MVP. And if you remember what happened at the end of 2019, they played a home playoff game against Tennessee, and I thought Lamar played very well in that game. He ended up throwing it almost 60 times, which was the problem. But obviously, Derrick Henry ran wild on them. And Lamar threw for 365 again. He was 31 of 59. He ran for 143 yards in that game, but they lost 28-12 at home to the Titans. And that plunged Lamar's playoff record to 1-3, where it still stands today. He's 1-3 in the postseason. So a lot of people were skeptical of that, I believe. But I think the Ravens were a little skeptical of that. And Keyshawn, I'm not sure they weren't going to let him out of the building. I'm just not sure. It didn't feel that way to me because
they were never going to let him out of the building.
You want to talk about
You can't
mistreatment?
let that out.
Hey, this